There comes a quiet turning point in every trader's journey, a moment you don't notice at first. The charts look the same, the candles move as they always have, but something inside you changes. You no longer stare at the screen begging for luck to appear. You no longer pray for your trades to work. You've stopped chasing movement. You're waiting with calm intention, with patience that feels powerful instead of anxious. You understand that your role is not to control the market, but to control yourself. That realization, that peace, is where profitability begins. Becoming a profitable trader isn't about finding the perfect setup or the secret indicator. It's about developing the kind of discipline that keeps you steady when the world is uncertain. You start to realize that success in trading has less to do with prediction and everything to do with preparation. You begin to measure your days differently. It's no longer about whether you made money, but whether you executed your plan. That's the true language of professionals, process over outcome. At first, trading was chaos, a storm of emotions, hopes, and reactions. Every candle felt personal. Every red bar felt like a loss of self-worth. But through experience, you learned to quiet the storm. You discovered that the market doesn't reward excitement. It rewards consistency. The calm trader wins because he sees what others miss. He reacts slower, thinks deeper, and acts with clarity. You stop trying to trade every move. You trade your plan. You stop caring about being right. You start caring about staying consistent. You understand that real profitability comes when your habits align with your goals, when your emotions no longer dictate your trades, and when you realize patience is your sharpest weapon. Today, we'll uncover the 7 powerful signs that show you're becoming that kind of trader: focused, patient, profitable. If you find yourself nodding at these signs, then you're not guessing anymore. You're evolving. You're transforming from a hopeful beginner into a disciplined professional. Let's begin the journey together. 1. You trade with purpose, not impulse. In the early stages of trading, the screen feels alive, almost too alive. Every candle seems to whisper opportunity. Every breakout feels like a promise. You jump in too soon, exit too late, and watch the market dance in directions you never expected. It's not that you're reckless. It's that you're emotional. You're chasing the thrill, the validation, the rush of being right. But something begins to change as you mature. You start noticing the difference between movement and meaning. You stop reacting to noise. You stop entering trades just because the price moved. Now, before every click, you pause, you breathe, you think. You ask yourself, why this trade? What's my reason? What's my risk? That pause, that moment of awareness, becomes your greatest weapon. You start building rules. You no longer open trades because of fear of missing out, or because you feel something will happen. You enter because your plan told you to. You've learned that trading impulsively is gambling, and gambling has no memory, no structure, no edge. But trading with purpose, that's different. That's a process that can be repeated. That's how professionals survive. Your charts become simpler. You remove unnecessary indicators, clean your workspace, and focus only on the structure that matters. What was once a battlefield of chaos becomes a quiet studio of focus. Every trade has a clear entry, a defined stop loss, and a realistic target. You no longer hope, you expect, not outcomes, but discipline. You begin to value patience as a skill, not a weakness. When the market doesn't align with your plan, you don't force trades to fill the silence. You wait, because now you understand. Doing nothing is a strategy. Waiting for the right opportunity is how the calm trader outlasts the crowd. Purpose gives you peace. You realize that one good structured trade is worth more than 10 random ones. You understand that consistency is built not through activity, but through intention. And as your mindset shifts, so does your equity curve. The world swings begin to settle. Your results start reflecting something new. Clarity. You don't trade to prove you're right anymore. You trade to prove that your system works. You don't chase movement. You let it come to you. You no longer see trading as a daily battle. It becomes a calm performance of patience and precision. That's the first real sign that you're evolving. You've stopped trading emotionally and started trading with structure. You've gone from guessing to executing, from reacting to anticipating, from chasing profit to protecting process. And that shift, that internal calm that appears between your decisions, is the foundation every profitable trader stands on. Because in trading, purpose isn't just a mindset, it's survival. 2. You respect risk more than reward. One of the most profound shifts in a trader's evolution happens when you stop asking, "How much can I make?" and start asking, "How much am I willing to lose?" In the beginning, we all chase the same dream, the big win, the trade that doubles our account, the candle that proves we finally get it. But the deeper you go into the markets, the more you realize that the traders who survive the longest aren't the ones who win the biggest. They're the ones who lose the smallest. You begin to understand that risk is not your enemy, it's your partner. It's the cost of entry into every opportunity. Every trade has a ticket price, and that price is uncertainty. Once you accept that, trading stops being a battle against loss and becomes a negotiation with probability. You size your positions carefully. You define your stop loss before you even think about the target. You no longer move stops just to give it more room. You know that discipline means keeping your boundaries, even when it hurts. You stop risking your peace of mind for a little more potential profit. Because you've learned that longevity in trading is worth more than one lucky day, your focus shifts from outcomes to process. You realize that if you protect your downside, your upside takes care of itself. That's when the magic begins. Your losses become smaller, more controlled, more acceptable. You don't fear them anymore. You respect them. And in that respect lies power. Because the moment you truly accept risk, the market loses its power to scare you. You stop reacting emotionally to red candles. You stop forcing trades after a loss. You breathe, analyze, and wait. Every loss becomes data, feedback to refine your system, not a personal failure. You notice something else too. Your balance starts to stabilize. You no longer see wild swings in your equity curve. The days of huge wins followed by huge crashes begin to fade. In their place comes a smoother, steadier path. It might look slower to others, but you know the truth. Slow and consistent wins the game. You start to feel gratitude for losing small, because it means your risk management worked. It means you survived another day, another round, another lesson. And you begin to realize that the goal isn't to avoid losing. It's to lose well, to lose small, to lose with logic, and to live to trade another day. When you master this mindset, your entire relationship with trading changes. You stop chasing money. You start managing probability. You stop trying to be right. You start trying to last. That's the second undeniable sign that you're becoming a profitable trader. You respect risk more than reward. You've stopped gambling for success and started building it with structure, math, and emotional control. Because in the end, profitable trading isn't about how fast you grow your account. It's about how long you can protect it. 3. Discipline becomes second nature. At first, discipline feels like a cage. You write rules. You promise yourself structure. You tell yourself you'll only take trades that match your plan. And yet, temptation always whispers. The chart moves quickly. The candles flash. Your pulse rises. You feel that familiar urge to act, even when you shouldn't. And then, the lesson repeats itself, over and over, until one day, something changes. You stop breaking your rules, not because you have to, but because you no longer want to. That's when discipline stops being a burden and becomes your nature. You begin to realize that discipline isn't about forcing yourself. It's about freeing yourself from doubt, from emotional noise, from the endless need to guess what comes next. You find comfort in routine. You wake up at the same time. You prepare your charts in the same way. You trade with the same rules that protect you. It's no longer an effort. It's a rhythm. You don't chase trades. You wait for them. You don't need to look at the screen every second, because you trust your plan to alert you when it's time. The anxiety that once controlled your decisions fades away, replaced by a calm kind of confidence, one that comes from repetition, not luck. Discipline begins to touch everything, not just your trading, but your mindset, your sleep, your health, your focus. You understand that the quality of your trades reflects the quality of your habits. You start caring about small things, your morning routine, your workspace, your energy, because you see the connection between your state of mind and your performance. The profitable trader knows that the market doesn't reward intensity, it rewards consistency. And consistency is born from habits practiced long enough to become identity. You start trusting time. You understand that trading isn't about speed, it's about precision. You don't need to win today. You need to win over time. Every disciplined decision compounds. Every time you follow your rules, even when it's boring, you're quietly building something powerful. Confidence that doesn't break when the market does. And when you look back, you realize that discipline didn't take away your freedom. It gave it back to you. You're no longer enslaved by emotion. You don't fear missing out. You don't panic in drawdowns. You know what to do, when to do it, and when to walk away. That's the essence of growth. You've stopped fighting against your plan. You've started becoming it. That's the third unmistakable sign of a profitable trader. Discipline is no longer something you try to have. It's something you are. 4. You control emotions like a professional. Every trader begins with emotion. It's natural. Excitement, fear, greed, hope, all fighting for control. The moment you open a chart, your heart beats faster when a candle spikes in your favor, and it sinks when the market turns against you. You tell yourself to stay calm, but your hands move before your thoughts do. You close early, you chase late, you act first, and understand later. But with experience, something changes. You begin to see your emotions rather than become them. You start noticing your reactions as they happen. The tension in your chest, the impatience building as price moves, the urge to prove yourself right. You don't fight the feeling, you observe it. You take a breath, you wait. That pause is the sign of growth. It's the space between emotion and execution, the space where professionals live. You realize that emotional control isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about mastering how you respond. You accept that you can't eliminate fear or greed, but you can choose not to obey them. You don't need to feel fearless to trade well. You need to act with discipline, despite the fear. The market tests this daily. You take a loss, and your mind screams, "Get it back." But you don't. You let it go. You walk away, review, reset. You know that revenge trading is a voice of ego, and ego has no place in consistency. You start finding beauty in neutrality. Wins don't inflate you, and losses don't destroy you. You stop labeling days as good or bad. They're simply part of the cycle. You start thinking in probabilities, not emotions. The chart becomes data, not drama. And when others panic, you remain still, because you've seen this before, not just in the market, but in yourself. You know that chaos is temporary. You know that reacting emotionally will cost you clarity. So instead, you stay patient. You let your system speak louder than your impulses. This calmness doesn't come overnight. It's earned through thousands of trades, through failures, through quiet moments where you chose patience over pride. But once it arrives, it stays. It becomes your anchor. You stop needing the market to make you feel good. You find stability in your own composure. That's what separates traders who last from those who burn out. Because emotions don't destroy accounts, reactions do. When you reach the point where a loss doesn't shake you, and a win doesn't blind you, you've stepped into a new realm of mastery. You trade from awareness, not excitement. You execute from balance, not desperation. That's the fourth clear sign of a profitable trader. You control your emotions like a professional. You no longer fight the market, you flow with it. You no longer argue with uncertainty, you accept it. And in that acceptance, you find power. The quiet, unshakable kind that keeps your head steady while everyone else loses theirs. 5. You think in series, not single trades. There's a moment in every trader's growth when something profound happens. You stop seeing the market as a single event and start seeing it as a series of opportunities. You realize that one trade means nothing. It doesn't define your skill, your intelligence, or your future. It's just one moment in a long, continuous process. When you first start trading, every position feels personal. Each loss feels like failure. Each win feels like validation. Your emotions rise and fall with every candle. But when you evolve, your perspective changes. You start thinking in numbers, not feelings. You begin to see that your edge, your true advantage, only reveals itself over time, across dozens or even hundreds of trades. You understand that the market is not a test you pass once. It's a game of probabilities that rewards consistency. And so, you start tracking everything. You record your entries, exits, setups, and mistakes. You calculate your average win, your average loss, your strike rate, your drawdowns. Suddenly, trading becomes less about prediction and more about pattern recognition, not of the market, but of yourself. You begin to find comfort in the law of large numbers. One loss doesn't bother you, because you know your system has proven itself over time. You stop trying to win every trade and instead focus on executing your plan perfectly, knowing that, statistically, the profits will follow. You trade your edge, not your emotions. That's when you start to see true progress. You no longer panic when a trade hits your stop loss. You no longer celebrate recklessly after a big win. Both are just data points, feedback in a larger experiment that never ends. You think like a scientist now. You test, you refine, you adjust. Every trade becomes an observation, not a judgment. Every mistake becomes a lesson that strengthens your process. And because of that mindset, your performance stabilizes. You move from chaos to rhythm, from gambling to growth. You stop searching for perfection. You accept variance. You know that even the best setups will fail sometimes, and that's fine, because your edge isn't built on being right every time. It's built on being consistent over time. That's the mental shift professionals live by. They don't get attached to results. They get attached to process. They know that one trade can't make them rich, but one undisciplined trade can make them broke. So, they protect their focus fiercely. You're no longer reacting to the present. You're managing a series. You're no longer chasing random profits. You're executing a plan designed to work across the long run. That's the fifth clear sign you're becoming a profitable trader. You think in probabilities, not outcomes. You stop looking for certainty in a game built on uncertainty. You let the math, the discipline, and your consistency do the heavy lifting. Because you finally understand, trading isn't about winning today. It's about still being here tomorrow. 6. You study your own behavior. At some point in your trading journey, you stop asking, "What is the market doing?" and start asking, "What am I doing?" That's the moment self-awareness enters the room, and everything changes. You begin to realize that the market was never your greatest opponent. You were. Your impatience, your fear, your greed, your hesitation, they've all been silently influencing your decisions. And for the first time, you stop looking outward for answers and turn your focus inward. You start keeping a trading journal. Not just numbers, not just charts, but thoughts, emotions, triggers. You document everything. What setup you saw, how you felt entering, what made you exit, what you learned. At first, it feels tedious, even unnecessary, but slowly, it becomes a mirror, one that reflects patterns you never noticed before. You discover that your biggest losing streaks didn't come from bad strategies. They came from bad states of mind, fatigue, frustration, overconfidence, boredom, invisible emotions that left fingerprints on your trades. You realize that success isn't just about mastering the market, it's about mastering yourself. You begin to trade differently. You take breaks when you're mentally drained. You avoid the charts when you're emotional. You set boundaries for when and how you trade. You learn to protect your mental capital as fiercely as your financial one. Because now, you understand, clarity is a trader's real edge. Your journal becomes your coach. It tells you truths your ego would rather ignore. It shows you that sometimes, doing less creates more. That the same mistake repeated 3 times isn't a mistake anymore. It's a choice. And with that awareness, you start making better ones. You notice subtle improvements, not in your profits first, but in your peace. You're calmer, more deliberate, more grounded. You make fewer trades, but better ones. You stop needing the market to validate your worth. You start finding pride in your discipline instead of your outcomes. This introspection deepens your skill in ways technical analysis never could, because charts don't cause bad trades, behavior does, and once you understand your own behavior, you unlock the ability to improve it. That's what separates profitable traders from perpetual learners. Reflection. Every journal entry, every note, every lesson compounds, not just in knowledge, but in wisdom. You begin to trade not just with your mind, but with awareness. You stop blaming the market and start taking responsibility. And that ownership gives you power. Quiet, stable, unstoppable power. That's the sixth unmistakable sign of a profitable trader. You study yourself as deeply as you study the charts. You know that mastery doesn't come from finding better setups. It comes from becoming a better version of yourself. Because the longer you trade, the more you realize the chart doesn't test your strategy. It tests your character. 7. Trading becomes boring, but profitable. It sounds strange at first. The idea that trading, something once so thrilling and unpredictable, could become boring. But for the trader who has walked through chaos and come out disciplined, that boredom isn't dullness. It's peace. It's mastery. It's the quiet rhythm that appears when the noise fades and clarity takes its place. In the beginning, the excitement was everything. You lived for the adrenaline, the flashing candles, the sudden surges, the feeling of winning. But with time, you realized that excitement was the enemy of consistency. It kept you chasing movement instead of managing process. It blinded you to risk, distracted you from patience, and fed the illusion that more trades meant more success. Now, things are different. You don't crave the thrill anymore. You crave precision. You open your charts not for entertainment, but for execution. You follow your plan, mark your zones, and wait. Some days, you might not take a single trade, and you're perfectly fine with that, because you've learned that real traders aren't paid for activity. They're paid for discipline. You begin to love the calm, the repetitive flow of analysis, setup, entry, exit, review. It feels almost meditative, predictable, structured, controlled. Your emotions no longer spike. You don't celebrate small wins with ego, and you don't mourn small losses with despair. Every outcome is simply part of your business model, expected, managed, accepted. You no longer see trading as an escape or a test. It becomes routine, just like any other professional craft. You show up, you do the work, you protect your capital, and you leave. You don't need trading to give you excitement anymore, because your satisfaction now comes from something far greater, consistency. And that's when you realize you've made it, not because of your profits, but because of your peace, because your emotions no longer rise and fall with the market, because you can step away from the screen and feel content, because you know that no single trade defines your worth. Trading has become simple, not easy, but clear. You've built systems that serve you, you've built habits that protect you, and you've built patience that sustains you. You've crossed the invisible line between chasing money and managing wealth. That's the seventh and final sign of a profitable trader. You've replaced excitement with discipline and thrill with mastery. Trading has become calm. It has become measured. It has become sustainable. You no longer need the market to prove who you are. You already know. Take a deep breath. If you've reached this point, if you've recognized even a few of these signs in yourself, then understand this. You're not the same trader who started. You've evolved. You've moved beyond impulse, beyond chaos, beyond needing the market to define you. You've entered the stage where trading isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. Because profitable trading isn't a destination, it's a practice, a lifestyle, a daily commitment to clarity, patience, and awareness. It's waking up each day ready to follow your plan, even when the market tempts you to do the opposite. It's learning to sit in silence, to trust your system, and to treat every trade as a lesson, not a verdict. You've learned that mastery is quiet. It doesn't need attention or adrenaline. It thrives in calm repetition, in humble consistency, in doing the small things well, again and again. That's where real traders live. The truth is, the profitable trader doesn't chase results. He becomes the kind of person who produces them. His profits are just reflections of his habits, his consistency, a mirror of his mindset, his peace, the proof of his evolution. And now, as you move forward in your journey, remember this simple truth. The market doesn't reward those who know the most. It rewards those who manage themselves the best. So keep learning, keep refining, keep protecting your capital and your calm. Every step, every day, every decision you make builds your edge, not just in the market, but in life. If this message resonated with you, if it reminded you of where you are or inspired you to keep going, I'd love for you to become part of this mindful trading journey. Take a second right now to support this message. Hit the like button if this helped you see trading differently. Share it with another trader who might need to hear this truth today. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video about trading psychology, discipline, and the art of mastering yourself. This isn't just about markets, it's about mindset. Because once you master your mind, profits follow naturally. So stay patient, stay focused, and stay grounded. This is Mindful Trade, where discipline meets peace and growth becomes inevitable. Thank you for watching. Trade safe, trade smart, trade calm.